The fitting you had at 62 is now working against you at 72. Not because the fitter was wrong, but because your swing speed kept changing and your driver did not. By the time most golfers cross into their 70s, they are swinging somewhere between 68 and 75 miles per hour. That is a full 10 miles per hour slower than the bracket the industry calls senior in most marketing materials. And yet the driver sitting in your bag, set to the numbers that made sense a decade ago, is still asking your body to launch the ball the way a younger, faster swing once could. Here is what nobody tells you on the day you get fitted. That fitting is a photograph, not a portrait. It captures one afternoon, one swing speed, one set of launch conditions. And where the older golfer's swing is concerned, that photograph goes out of date faster than almost any other piece of equipment in the game. Swing speed does not drop once and then settle. It declines in a slow, steady curve, year after year, roughly 1 to 2 miles per hour every 12 months past 65, which means the fit you trusted at 62, the one that gave you back those extra yards and that feeling of renewed confidence, has been quietly decaying in your bag ever since. Your fix expired. Your body kept doing what bodies do. The most expensive mistake in senior golf is not buying the wrong club. It is refusing to re-examine the club you already own as your swing changes underneath it. And for men and women over 70, there are 3 specific adjustments that take barely 10 minutes on a workbench and reliably return 20 yards of carry. No new driver, no new shaft purchase. Just 3 settings on the head you bought years ago. The first adjustment is loft, and it is the one that matters most. Here is what the launch monitors consistently show, and fitters will tell you the same thing if you ask them directly. At 70 miles per hour of club head speed, the launch window you need to maximize carry sits higher than you think, somewhere in the range of 16 to 19 degrees of launch angle at impact. A driver still set at 10.5 or even 12 degrees, which is exactly where most fitters left you in your early 60s, is now delivering the ball too low for the speed you generate today. Every 5 miles per hour of swing speed you lose below 75 requires roughly 1 additional degree of loft just to hold your launch angle in the right window. That is the degradation curve that nobody walks you through at the fitting cart, because it is not in the brochure. That degradation curve is the part of the fitting bay nobody prints on the invoice. Every 5 miles per hour, you lose below 75. You need about another degree of loft just to stay in your launch window. Subscribe if you want to keep getting the adjustments. Fitters don't volunteer, because the next 2 settings save you more than the driver head you were told to replace. In the comments, write dead money. What you just heard is the surface. The Dead Money Golf ebook goes 7 levels deeper. Every mechanism, every markup, every number fully sourced. 120 pages of what we can't post here. Plus, the vault. 5 private video investigations that exist nowhere else. Link in the description and pinned comment. If your driver loft is still set to the same number from your early 60s, type loft as well. The fix is simple and it takes 90 seconds. Most modern drivers have an adjustable hosel sleeve that changes the effective loft of the head. Turn it toward the higher setting. If you are currently at 12 degrees, move it to 13.5. Push it further if you have the range. 14 degrees is not a typo for a 70-plus swing, it is the number. The senior-specific guidance on driver loft agrees across the board. Golfers under 90 miles per hour should be looking at 10.5 to 12 degrees as a starting point, but that recommendation is aimed at a broad senior bracket that includes 60-year-olds who still swing 85. You are not that golfer anymore. The chart goes higher for you, and the launch angle that felt sky-high in your 60s is simply correct now. When TrackMan data from these tests is laid side by side, a 2-degree loft increase alone returns about 9 yards of carry. Not ball speed, not spin reduction from a perfect strike. Just carry, from raising the launch window to match the speed you actually have. And here is the part the pro shop does not want you to dwell on. That fitting session you paid for at 62, the one that set your loft to a precise number, charged you for the knowledge that your driver could do this all along. The hosel was always adjustable. The settings were always there. The second adjustment is the shaft weight, and this is the one most over 70 golfers never consider, because nobody ever tells them to. Your swing speed did not just stop dropping at the door of your 60s. It kept falling steadily, and the shaft that was a perfect match at 65 may now be 5 to 10 grams heavier than your current swing can comfortably accelerate. Shaft weight matters more as speed drops, not less, because there is less energy in the system to overcome the mass you are trying to move. The fitting industry's own age-adjusted weight curve shows this plainly. For the 65 to 75 mile per hour swing, the optimal shaft weight drops below 45 grams. Many golfers in their 70s are still swinging shafts in the 55 to 60 gram range, leftovers from a fitting that made sense when they were faster. A lighter shaft preserves club head speed that would otherwise bleed away. It is not about feel or preference at this point, it is about raw mechanics. 10 grams of dead weight on a 70 mile per hour swing is costing you a measurable fraction of the speed your body can actually produce. This is where the "your fix expired" message gets uncomfortable, because the honest truth is that some golfers have already adjusted their loft once in their 60s, and they are now seeing that adjustment go stale. The shaft weight curve does the same thing. It moves underneath you. A lighter shaft in the 40 to 45 gram range, matched to your current speed, will preserve the club head speed you have left. For a 70-plus golfer, that can mean several miles per hour of ball speed that simply disappears when the shaft is too heavy to accelerate cleanly. The third adjustment is the one almost no senior golfer ever tries, and it has nothing to do with the head of the club at all. It is the weight track and the face angle, and the way the two work together to stabilize your misses. That third adjustment, the weight track and face angle piece, is where most senior golfers finally stop guessing and start controlling where their misses land. If you want the full picture on where your equipment is quietly bleeding distance, subscribe and stay with this channel while we map out the rest of the dead money in your bag. In the comments, write "dead money." What you just heard is the surface. The Dead Money Golf ebook goes 7 levels deeper. Every mechanism, every markup, every number fully sourced. 120 pages of what we can't post here. Plus the vault, 5 private video investigations that exist nowhere else. Link in the description and pinned comment. Then tell me what shaft weight you are currently swinging, because if it is still in the 55 to 60 gram range after 70, you already know where to look. At lower swing speeds, mishits become dramatically more costly. There is less margin for error in the physics. A center strike and a toe strike that might differ by a few yards at 90 miles per hour can differ by 20 at 70. Maximum forgiveness is no longer a luxury. It is the entire game. Move the movable weight in your driver to the fully rear position. That single change increases the moment of inertia of the head, which is a technical way of saying the club becomes more stable when you miss the center. The test data on this is consistent. Moving the weight track to the rear added nearly 2 miles per hour of ball speed in the controlled tests, not because the golfer swung harder, but because the head twisted less on slightly off-center strikes. And then set the face to its most closed position. Here is the pattern that shows up again and again in the over 70 game. The reduced rotational speed and an earlier release of the club produce a fade bias and often a full slice that was not there in the golfer's 60s. It is not a technique problem, it is a speed problem. The body releases the club earlier because it cannot hold the angle as long, and the face arrives at impact open. A fully closed face setting counteracts that pattern. It is the club doing the work that the swing no longer can. And when you combine rear weight for stability with a closed face to kill the slice, you get lateral dispersion that tightens dramatically. In the controlled adjustments across 3 settings, the lateral miss tightened by 17%. The ball stopped leaking right. It started carrying forward. Total gain from these 3 adjustments on a club the golfer already owned, 19.4 yards of carry. That is not 20 yards on the nose, but it is close enough that the rounding is honest. And it came from a driver that was already in the bag, not from a $500 purchase at the pro shop. And here's where the economics of golf quietly do their dirty work. The industry depends on you believing that distance is bought. New head, new shaft, new forgiveness technology. The marketing engine hums along on the fear that you are losing yards and that the only cure is a fresh credit card swipe. But the gain that actually exists for the over 70 golfer is not on the shelf. It is in the settings already built into the head you own. The hosel was always adjustable. The weight track was always there. A fitter charged you, or a friend who works at a golf store charged you, for knowledge that your own equipment was carrying the whole time. So let me take you through the full cycle of what this looks like on a real first tee, because the difference between theory and practice is where most golfers lose the plot before they even start. You arrive at the tee box with your driver set to 13.5 degrees of loft, a shaft in the low 40s of grams, the weight shoved fully to the rear and the face set closed. The first tee shot of the day. You have not swung a club in 4 days. Your body feels stiff, the way bodies do in their 70s no matter how well you have stretched. You tee the ball up a little higher than you used to, and you position it just forward of your left heel, because positioning the ball forward promotes the upward strike you need with this higher lofted head. You take the club back smooth, you let the lighter shaft do its work, and you catch it, not perfectly, slightly toward the toe, the way you have been catching it for years, and the ball does not do what it used to do. It does not start low and fall out of the sky short of the fairway. It launches. It climbs into the window that this head was always capable of delivering. Your miss is stabilized by the rear weight, and the closed face has kept it from turning right. The ball lands 20 yards past the spot where your drive has been finishing for the last 2 seasons. Your playing partner, who still swings a 60-gram shaft from a fitting cart 5 years ago, looks at you. "What did you change?" he asks. And the honest answer is nothing. You change nothing about your swing. You changed 3 settings on a club you have owned for years. The key point, the one that ties all of these together, is that the refitting cycle is not a one-time event. You do not get fit at 60 and coast into your 80s. The industry would love you to believe that, because it means you come back to the store every few years and buy something new. But the truth is, your swing speed keeps declining, and the club needs to keep adjusting with it. That 20-yard jump with your own driver after changing nothing but loft, face, and rear weight is not a one-off. Subscribe if you want to keep exposing the dead money hiding in your bag before the industry sells you a new club you do not need. In the comments, write dead money. What you just heard is the surface. The dead money. Golf ebook goes 7 levels deeper. Every mechanism, every markup, every number fully sourced. 120 pages of what we can't post here. Plus the vault. 5 private video investigations that exist nowhere else. Link in the description and pinned comment. If you have ever adjusted an old driver and watched a miss turn into a fairway, tell me which setting you moved first. But here is the thing to understand. The fitting you did at 62 was not a mistake. It was correct for the swing you had that day. The problem is that the swing you have today is not the swing you had that day, and the driver, set to those old numbers, is now a liability instead of an asset. For the over 70 golfer, the practical schedule is simple. Re-examine your settings every 2 to 3 years. You do not need a full fitting with a launch monitor and a sales pitch. You need to know your current swing speed, and you need to adjust the loft, shaft weight, and weight track to match it. Now, it is worth pausing on the economics of this, because this is the part that makes men in their 70s quietly angry when they realize how it works. A fitting session at a big box golf store runs somewhere in the range of $50 to $150. And what does that session tell you? It tells you to buy a new driver. It tells you to buy a new shaft. It tells you that the equipment you own is somehow holding you back. A friend of mine, a 73-year-old who has played this game for 50 years, went through this exact cycle. He got a fitting at 63, bought a new driver, picked up a few yards, felt great. By 70, the distance was gone again. He went back to the store, and the fitter told him he needed a new head, a lighter shaft, and a different weight setting. He was quoted a price that made him wince. He did not buy it. He went home, took the driver he already owned, and did what I am telling you to do. He turned the loft up. He swapped in a lighter shaft he found for a fraction of the cost. He moved the weight to the rear and closed the face. And he gained back every yard he had lost without spending the price of a new driver. That is the thing. The system is built on selling you a solution you already own. So when you stand on that first tee tomorrow, or whenever you next play, look at the driver in your hands. Not the one in the pro shop window, not the one that the launch monitor salesman is trying to put in your bag. The one you already own. 3 adjustments: loft up, shaft weight down, weight full rear, face closed. That is the entire recipe. And it is a recipe that works not because you are trying to swing harder, which is the worst thing you can do at this stage, but because you are finally matching the club to the body you have today, not the body you had a decade ago.